Hi everyone, you're welcome back to the channel. Today we're going about a quick sewing of this beautiful gown with a very beautiful stylish neckline right here on the screen. It has a tie knot in front, and this is a style of dress you definitely want to add to your collection. It's 100% beginners friendly. Trust me that this is the type of tutorial you actually want to watch to the very end. Do not skip any part. With that much being said, let's get started with today's video. The detailed drafting part of this particular beautiful gown has been uploaded on the channel, so the link to the drafting part of this tutorial will actually be in the description box. If you are yet to actually watch out the drafting part of this particular tutorial, please kindly go and watch it out before you come back to watch the second part of the tutorial, which is going to be for the sewing part, so that you don't get confused and also understand everything that I'll be doing here in today's tutorial in this particular video. So after drafting out on the pattern paper, I went ahead to transfer all of this drafted piece to my fabric, and this is the exact point we stopped. So now the part I remove is the back part of my gown, and this is the skirt part of the gown. So this is the front and the back as well. So also remember that I added 2 inches extra for folding allowance, and at the top part I also added half inch for joining allowance. So here is the front part of the gown. For the upper part of the gown, that's the front part, and this is the shoulder area, and this other part is the body part. So you can see that at the neckline area and at the base of this side of the shoulder, I added half of an inch. At this other side, I repeated the same thing. Okay, all around this you can see all the parts I added half of an inch, which will be for our joining. So the next thing now is to start sewing. So I'm firstly going to work for the upper part, which is the shoulder area of this our dress. So I'm going to remove the pattern paper I have for this other shoulder part. So I cut out 2 pieces with my same fabric acting as my lining and my main fabric. So right now I'm going to be placing these two right sides facing each other. Okay, so this is my fabric I'm using as my lining piece and also my main fabric. So when I must have aligned this together, I'll go ahead and pin this part now. I'm pinning is the base, and this other part, this cuff part, is the neckline. If you watch the drafting tutorial, you understand what I mean. So on the neckline part I'll stitch, and also at the base I'll stitch and turn it out from the shoulder. Then for this other part of the shoulder, I also cut out 2 pieces with this same fabric. So I'm just going to leave it this way because the fabric is facing right side. Okay, I'll now stitch that part using just half of an inch. Then for the body part, I also cut out 2 pieces using the same fabric. Okay, it will be acting as the lining and the main fabric as well. So you can see now I have these 2 pieces of fabric right sides facing each other. I'll just stitch the top part with just half of an inch. Now I have done this, and I have flipped this now to the right side from the base. I also stitch my dart as well. So for this other part of the shoulder, I ended up not lining it because when I've lined it up at that pointy part, it was actually difficult for me to turn it to the right side. So I just had to fold the neckline area and also the base as well using just half of an inch. Okay, so now I'm going to be slightly placing the shoulder parts directly on top of the body part of my gown right here. So you're going to be placing it slightly on top of it. So I hope that what I'm doing here is not confusing. So basically the wrong part of this shoulder part is slightly on top of the right side of the body part of this my gown. Okay, then I'm just going to stitch it down straight after pinning. For this other side, I'm just going to be placing the right side of this shoulder directly on top of the right side of this the body part of my dress, and I'll stitch this way and flip it like this so you can see what it's going to actually look like. So that is it for the upper part. Then I'll basically go on ahead to fix or stitch the skirt parts to the upper body part. So on the waist area, I'm going to be placing the skirt part and the upper part right sides facing each other on the waist area, and you can see I've also stitched my dart for the skirt part. Now after pinning these together right sides facing each other, I will stitch it down using just half of an inch. Then the back part, I've actually stitched my neckline using a facing and also fixed my zipper. I've done this countless times on this channel, and my subscribers are familiar with this. In case you don't know how to do this, please go on ahead to check out other tutorials on my channel. You definitely know how to do this step by step. Okay, so now I've separated these two back parts, and one thing I did was that when I was stitching my zipper, I didn't stitch it up to the very base of my half scale bodice for the back part. As you can see right here, this is for me to be able to fix or attach the skirt part of the back part of my gown. Okay, so this is it. Now you can see that I raised my zip up slightly, and now I'm pinning the lower part of the back part of my skirt to the upper part on the waistline, right sides facing each other. I'll go ahead to stitch this using half of an inch, then I'll stitch up the remaining zipper. Okay, so back to the front part, after joining the upper parts and the lower part of my gown on the waist area, this is what I have, and you can see that the two darts are matching perfectly. So the next thing is to finish up for this upper part. So what I'm going to do is to make sure that the upper part of this my gown is flat enough. You can see, I'll make sure that it's flat. You can see what I've done right here so far. So when I've cross-checked everything is perfect, remember that that pointy part is supposed to be on top of this other part, curved part of the shoulder. So when it overlaps so much, I had to fold it in slightly. Okay, so at this point, you can actually go on ahead to tack. You can tack this using your hand needle and your thread. So that would be taking a lot of time right here for this tutorial. So I had to do that behind the camera. So all I did was just to use my office pin to actually pin this together on that top part, as you can see right here. So that is basically it. And the next thing is actually fix our tie knot in front. So this is a piece I have right here. In length is about 31 inches long, and in wideness is about 13 inches and quarter. Okay, but for the wideness I think it's too much. So if for your own wideness, you can go with about 6 inches wideness of this. So I also folded this at the two parts, like the rough edges. I folded it, okay, and I stitched it as well. So for your wideness, please make it about 6 inches. This 13 inches, I think it was quite so much. All right, so after that, now I went ahead now to bring this together like this. Okay, so you see what I've done right here. I just brought it together, and now I'm crossing this way, and I'm folding this and turn it up just like this. Okay, it's very simple to do. I believe that it's not confusing at all to you all. So this is what it's going to look like when I place it on top of my fabric, or rather my gown. So the next I'm going to do is to get my gown. This is the right side of my gown facing the camera. I folded it into two so that I'll be able to get the middle part of this my gown, so that I can easily fix my tie knot in front. So this is it now. I've gotten the middle part, and I use my chalk to highlight it. Okay, so one thing I want you all to know is that from the center part, or from your waist part of your gown below, you're going to measure about 5 to 6 inches, so that you can be able to place this your knots exactly at the center of your gown. Okay, so I actually measured this out earlier. So what I measured out for mine was 6 inches. So by the time you measure it out, make sure that your tie knot is exactly at the middle of this your gown, that is on the skirt part. Okay, so this is it. I'm trying to arrange this properly. Make sure there are no folds at all on your gown. So you can actually go on ahead as well to also knot this, like to have this firmness. Okay, so mine is quite so bold. That is why I said you should make the wideness of this piece at least 6 inches after folding the both sides or stitching the both sides. Okay, so after doing this, now I'm just going to go ahead now to start pinning this from the waist area. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing right here now. I'm just going to be carefully pleating this. Okay, this actually took quite some time, so also take your time and do this as well. Make sure that you do not have fold at all. Bring out, like, take your time and actually do this. Okay, so that you'll be happy with your results at the end of the day. Okay, so you can see that I'm pinning the top part now. This is the right side of my gown. I'm pinning this on top of it. Okay, you can see what I'm doing right here. I'm arranging this properly and I'm pleating this. So when I'm done with this part, I'll also bring in the second part. For this same part, for this same left part of um these drapes, let me just call it these drapes that I'm doing right here. Okay, so I'm pleating this carefully. You can see all the struggles and all of that. So I completed everything behind the camera, and you can see what I have. So when you are done pinning, just go on ahead and run a stitch just on top. So you see, this is the right side and this is the wrong side. So go on ahead to stitch. You can see I'm still removing the pins I have right there. So go on ahead to stitch just at the sides there. So you can see there are no folds on my gown. This is exactly how yours should be as well. So these excesses I have, I'll just go on ahead now to trim it off so that the sides of this tie knot I have can align with the sides of my gown. So that is basically it. Okay, so I'm now going to be joining the back part to this front part of my gown, because that is it for the front part of our gown. So for the back part, I've already gone ahead to join the lower parts and also stitch on the waist area. So right sides facing each other with the right side of my front gown. I'm going to firstly join the shoulder. So the shoulder like this, right sides facing each other, I'll pin and I'll join them together using just half of an inch. So something I didn't make mention of earlier was, if you're making use of an actual mesh fabric, you know that mesh fabric is stretching. There is no need for you to actually add any sewing allowance. You're going to actually mark out your actual body allowance without adding any stitching allowance. So when you are done using your actual body measurements, if you are stitching, just stitch at both sides using just 1 inch or half of an inch. Do not add any extra sewing or stitching allowance. Okay, so this particular fabric I'm making use of right here, like I said in the drafting part of the tutorial, is not a mesh fabric. That is why I added 1.5 inches as my sewing allowance. If this was a mesh fabric, I wouldn't even bother adding any extra allowance. When I must have gotten my body measurements, I will just cut it out. Okay, then when I'm not stitching, I would have used 1 inch or half of an inch depending on how excessively stretchy the fabric is. So that is how I always do it whenever I'm working with a very stretchy fabric. Okay, so right here now, I've pinned the sides as well after pinning the shoulder. Now I'm marking my stitching or sewing allowance of 1.5 inches from my armhole all the way to the base or the very end of this my gown. So before I go ahead to stitch the sides, I will come down by at least half of an inch from the armhole area so that I can easily fix my sleeve at the end of the day. So I'll stitch both sides of this gown and now fix my sleeve. You can fix any sleeve of your choice. Then at the end of the day, this is what I have and this is the perfect fit on me. The reflection I was getting from outside was really bad, and I used my front camera to actually record myself because there was nobody available to do that for me. But you can see the perfect fit this has on me. This is so beautiful. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you found this tutorial really helpful. I hope to see you next time on the same channel. Have a lovely time ahead of you. I hope you try this out. Bye.